The world has witnessed a surge in violence. This violence takes many forms: terrorist attacks, mass shootings, ethnic cleansing. These events shock the conscience. They sow fear and division, but we must remember, violence is a symptom. It is not the disease itself. To understand this violence, we must look deeper. We must examine the underlying causes. These events are not isolated incidents. They are interconnected. They are rooted in a history of exploitation, inequality, and injustice. To address this violence, we must address these root causes. We must ask difficult questions, questions about power, questions about responsibility, and we must be willing to confront uncomfortable truths. Only then can we hope to build a more just and peaceful world. For centuries, powerful nations have exploited the global south. They have plundered resources, propped up dictators, and destabilized entire regions. This exploitation has had devastating consequences. It has created poverty, it has fueled conflict, and it has sown the seeds of resentment. The legacy of colonialism casts a long shadow. Even after independence, many former colonies remain economically dependent on their former rulers. This dependency creates a power imbalance. It allows powerful nations to dictate terms, and it prevents developing countries from achieving true self-determination. This exploitation is not just a historical relic. It continues today. Through unfair trade deals, debt burdens, and the control of global institutions, powerful nations maintain their grip on the global economy. The global arms trade is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and it is an industry that thrives on conflict. Powerful nations, particularly Western nations, are the world's largest arms exporters. They sell weapons to anyone who can pay. Dictators, warlords, even terrorist groups. These weapons fuel conflict and instability. They prolong wars. They exacerbate human suffering, and they make it more difficult to achieve peace. The arms trade is a moral abomination. It is time to end the hypocrisy. We cannot claim to be champions of peace while simultaneously profiting from war. Millions of people around the world are fleeing their homes. They are fleeing war. They are fleeing poverty. They are fleeing persecution. They are risking everything for a chance at a better life. Migration is not a choice. It is a necessity. It is a symptom of a world out of balance, a world where opportunity is concentrated in the hands of the few. Instead of building walls and demonizing migrants, we should be addressing the root causes of displacement. We should be creating a world where everyone has the opportunity to live in peace and dignity. Section 5, the rise of the far right, fanning the flames of fear. In recent years, there has been a disturbing rise in far-right extremism around the world. Far-right groups exploit people's fears and anxieties. They scapegoat minorities, and they promote a dangerous us versus them mentality. This rise in extremism is a threat to democracy and to social cohesion. It is essential that we confront this threat head-on. We must challenge hate speech. We must promote tolerance and understanding, and we must defend the rights of all people. Section 6. Clash of civilizations, a simplistic narrative. The notion of a clash of civilizations is a dangerous myth. It is a simplistic narrative that ignores the complexities of history and culture. It is a narrative that fuels prejudice and division. The truth is that there is far more that unites us than divides us. We all share the same planet. We all breathe the same air. And we all want the same basic things: peace, security, and a better future for our children. Instead of focusing on our differences, we should be focusing on our common humanity. We should be building bridges of understanding, and we should be working together to create a more just and equitable world. Section 7. Western policies, a legacy of instability. Western nations bear a heavy responsibility for the current state of the world. Their foreign policies have often been driven by self-interest rather than by a genuine desire to promote peace and stability. From the Iraq War to the ongoing conflict in Syria, Western intervention has had disastrous consequences. It has destabilized entire regions. It has created power vacuums that have been filled by extremist groups, and it has fueled the global refugee crisis. It is time for Western nations to rethink their approach to foreign policy. They must abandon the pursuit of narrow self-interest. They must prioritize diplomacy and dialogue. And they must work with other nations to build a more peaceful and just world order. Section 8. A way forward. Breaking the cycle of exploitation. Breaking the cycle of exploitation, migration and violence will require a fundamental shift in the way we think about the world. It will require a commitment to global justice, and it will require a willingness to challenge the status quo. We must start by addressing the root causes of poverty and inequality. We must promote sustainable development. We must ensure that everyone has access to education, healthcare, and economic opportunity. We must also reform the global financial system. We must end unfair trade practices. We must cancel the debts of developing countries, and we must create a system that works for everyone, not just for the wealthy and powerful. Section 9. Conclusion: a shared responsibility. The challenges we face are complex, but they are not insurmountable. If we are to create a more just and peaceful world, we must act together. We must demand that our leaders prioritize peace, justice, and human rights. We must hold them accountable for their actions, and we must never give up hope for a better future. The future is not predetermined. It is up to us to create the world we want to live in. A world where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. A world where peace and justice prevail. Let us work together to make that world a reality.